Go hard, or go home, go hard, or go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home, go hard, or go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, know you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now. Drive a race car like a Atari now. Call killing up, I need product again. Treat the business like a playground, might slide on you. Don't me wrong, might slide on you. Do a backflip, cause I'm mad rich. I'm the definition of what that is. Go hard, or go home, go hard, or go home, go hard, or go home, go hard. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go
hard, go home. What is up? What is up? What is up, you guys? How's it going?
What's going on?
For those of you guys who don't know me from the Fan Battle podcast or any of our other podcasts on the Fan Battle Network, my name is Harish. And this is my guy, Tim Wayne. Tim, how you doing tonight?
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here, man. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of media to cover with the Big 12 Media Days. So let's just jump right on into it, man. Let's go.
And we will do that. But first and foremost, we must introduce the crowd. We must let people know who we are.
Right.
We are the Longhorn Fan Battle podcast, brought to you by fanbattlesports.com.
Right.
For those of you that have followed us, the two of us specifically in the past, we used to be the Us on Everything Network. I have since then been a part of the Fan Battle Network, doing a lot of different other things. And you know what? I wanted to bring Longhorn Nation together, back to the 40 acres, and bring us back together again.
Right.
So please check us out on fanbattlesports.com. Tim and I, just before the show, were just talking about how we are going to start back up writing some articles this weekend.
Right.
So as we get that stuff put up, we will let you guys know. And we definitely want you guys to follow us there as well. Also, please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma, tell your mom, tell your uncle, tell your aunt, tell your cousin. Tell everybody you can think of. Tell your dog. I'll tell Nova as well while we're at it.
Yes,
Please
sir.
Follow us on Twitter at LH Fan Battle. Also follow us on YouTube. We'll be on there, Longhorn Fan Battle as well. And of course, go follow all of our shows. We have a plethora of shows on the network. We've got, the AFC South, Colts, Titans, Texans, and all those teams. And then we're coming out. The network is coming out with more shows as we speak. So please follow all of us on Twitter and all of our social medias. Visit our webpage. We're glad to have you guys. Tim, before we get started, we need to let people know who we are. So I'm going to start off episode 1 welcoming us to the 40 acres.
Right.
And, I want people know who I am from the network, right? Because I've been around for quite a while.
Right.
But I want you to give yourself a little bit of a brief introduction.
Well, let me just start out by saying I appreciate Fan Battle as a whole for inviting me and bringing me into the mix. I've been a fan for a while, ever since you started and became affiliated with the network. I really see nothing but great things, great content come from the Fan Battle network. So I'm really excited to be a part. I am, of course, my name is Tim Wayne. I am from Austin, Texas, which is not really a thing anymore, being that everybody's moved out. But I am a lifetime Longhorn fan. I actually live very, very close to the 40 acres. I can hear the cannons. I can see the tower. So I'm very, very close. And being that close and growing up around the 40 acres, you kind of get entrenched in the I don't want to call it a cult, but you just get entrenched in that burnt orange, right? You don't have a choice. You have to accept it. There's no rejection here. So Yeah, man. I love the game of football. It's done a number of things and provided a lot of opportunities for me. I played semi-pro for a number of years of semi-pro football and in chasing that dream to get to the next level, whether it be Canadian or NFL at that point. But we're here. I love making content. Me and you, we go way back. We've been talking about that's how we bonded, right? That's how we met, right? We met over college football of all things. And we just so happen to have a love for the same team. So we hit it off really good. We've been rocking and rolling ever since, and we're going to continue to rock and roll from now on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm glad, really excited to have you back on here on the network. Tim, in the future, will be a host. He will be hosting the show, and I will be his co-host running the show. I'm just here because it's episode 1. I'm just getting our feet wet. And
got to get our feet wet.
Yeah, he's taking care of us soon. But for those of you guys that don't know who I am, of course, my name is Harish Kala, a.k.a. the Uncle Gandhi.
The Uncle Gandhi.
And I hail from the Fan Battle Network. Got started with the podcast. I also live in Austin, Texas. Kyle, Texas, by the way, if you want to be exact. But I also hail from the Fan Battle Podcast network of podcasts. You guys can see me mostly on the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights on the Colts Horseshoe Mob podcast. So I'm also a lifetime Longhorn. I've moved here in 1998, and didn't really have any other schools to follow. The only exposure to football I had previous to that was 4 years of Peyton Manning, and so I had allegiance to that. And I was only 7 years old. I've been in Austin since then, and I just grew into loving football, and of course, here we go, hook 'em horns. I'm a diehard Longhorns fan. Follow them, watch them, everything, every sport, football, basketball, baseball, swimming, soccer, hockey, whatever. If they got it, I'll probably watch it.
Right. It's not a day that we don't really talk about Longhorn sports in general, whether it be football, whether it be a Longhorn that may be in the pros, or so on. So we cover the Longhorns even when we're not doing this. This is just the birth of all of these conversations that we've had over the years, from the football games that we've attended to going to local pluckers every Saturday, cheering on the horns. So this is the birthing of a new journey here with the Fan Battle, Longhorn Fan Battle, and the Fan Battle Network.
Absolutely. All right, Tim. Well, we've done enough introductions. We've had a good time. We played some music. We did all that good stuff. Let's jump right into it, man. So every week we're going to have our first segment is just going to talk about the landscape of the NCAA. Just talk about what's going on, what's the big story, what's the big news, who's doing what. And this could be a plethora of things. We are in a unique time in the NCAA right now with NIL, with just the changes to college football specifically, but overall the NCAA, right? Mm-hmm. I'm of the opinion that I think the NCAA in the next 5 to 10 years will be basically disseminated and will be taken over by NIL groups that kind of run the show, because money is business, and business, rules all. Money is power, and power rules all. Sorry, not money is business. Money is a part of business, but you know what I mean. Right. So I'm of the opinion that NIL is essentially the first step to getting the NCAA out of there. But I think as we look at college football, this is really the last year of an era. And I think we need to talk about that real quick, right? 14 playoff last year. Right. Schools moving conferences. This is the last year of the old guard.
Lots of schools. Right? Lots of movement going on.
Of course, the 40 acres is a part of that movement, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I don't want to dig too deep into that. Of course, for those of you guys that don't know, Texas is heading over to the SEC starting in 2024 with their unfortunate little brother Oklahoma to go beat up, so we can both beat up on both of our little brothers, the youngest of the brother family, Texas A&M. So we'll get that out of the way. We'll talk about. I want to spend an entire segment talking about the SEC schedule. And so we'll talk about that later. The other thing that's changing is the 14 college football playoff. Right? This is the last year of that. Right. Starting next year, we will have a 12-team playoff.
Right.
And we'll talk about this in recruiting. Steve Sarkisian, in my opinion, has set himself up perfectly for this.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think Steve. It's starting to become pretty apparent that Steve was planning for this 2-3 years ago,
Right. Right.
building up the
You can
talent
tell
on
in the recruiting. Yeah.
yeah, beefing up the O line and the D line. That's where it all starts, right?
Right.
Especially in the big boy league over there in the SEC. So very, very interesting. So 12-team playoff is coming, and it's really the start of a new era.
Right.
So we'll talk about that. But going back to today, and this news has really developed over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, it really has. It's been pretty nasty.
Tim Wayne, Northwestern's running a dirty program, bro.
Boy, is it dirty. Of all the places, of all the things, you don't really know about programs until you hear some really bad news. This is probably some of the worst news that a team like Northwestern could face right now. Right, being in the Big Ten, they've got people coming in too. They got UCLA and USC coming in next year as well. This is not a good move or a good look for the program. I don't necessarily know how this is going to end, but there have been some reports about some not so great things happening during training and throughout practices throughout the year. I forget the guys, it's episode 1, so I'm definitely forgetting the head coach's name right now. It's totally blowing my mind. But it's not a good look. I can't remember exactly all the reports because there've been within the last 48 hours, there's been absolutely so many. From people, getting hazed, from people doing all types of just wrong things as far as coaching is concerned. If you can provide a little bit more detail into that, Harish, we'll cover it as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it. I mean, people are getting hazed. It's come out specifically with the football program and Pat Fitzgerald, which is interesting because when Texas was looking for a new head coach, which
He was definitely
one of my top candidates, right?
Right.
I definitely don't want any hazers in my program.
Right.
So I definitely no longer want to be affiliated with them. I don't think there's been too many specifics around what the hazing actually was.
Right. So I've heard that I've read that there's been some, just going the extra mile, practices, these unaccounted for practices happening. And, that's, anytime you have unaccounted practices that can get a little tricky. I do specifically remember talking to Coach Ware, former defensive backs coach at Grambling State, that, there are practices that can be had with students, but they cannot be ran with any coaching. That with this, from what I've read and what I've heard so far, that is not necessarily the case. And when you get to doing things like that, that doesn't sit well with the NCAA. It's a bad look altogether because you're only allowed so many hours to actually get in there, do the practicing, and still, whatever game plan you may have for the season, and then you move on from there. So when you get to these unaccounted for practices and how things can get a little crazy and a little shaky, that doesn't sit well with the NCAA at all.
So there's one specific practice that is being done that was reported to be done. Of course, these are. So I want to preface this with these are always all allegations.
Right.
Nothing has been proven yet. Allegedly, these things have happened. But hey, allegedly, could also lead up to the school. Northwestern I think Northwestern is a private college, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So knowing that the type of college they are, allegations are good enough for them to be like, whoa, all right, we got to separate ourselves quickly.
Right.
This scenario happened, well, not hazing, but a like scenario happened here at Texas. Right. Just in the winter, right, with Chris Beard. And obviously those very, very different allegations. I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying that they're but as far as like how the school reacted very quickly with both of these coaches, the baseball and the football coach. Yeah, they just aren't dealing with it, right? So one of the acts that have been allegedly reported is freshmen specifically have been asked to run when they make mistakes. People run when they make mistakes. However, the kicker is they were asked to wear like masks and certain types of masks in order while they were running.
Right.
There is also on the baseball team reports of toxic behavior.
Right.
And I think the baseball one might be a little bit more severe, but there's still reports that are coming out.
Right. Yeah, they haven't really gone into detail on the baseball. The Patrick Gerald, like the fact that he's been let go, let's kind of let you know how serious this is. Like, again, hazing is not a thing that, we've seen deaths over the years that have happened. We've seen people getting all types of suspensions and things of that nature when it comes to hazing and doing things that are not conform to NCAA regulations. So that speaks big on how kind of this is a sensitive time. Like you can't just be out here doing all these different types of things and running programs and having kids, uncomfortable and in situations like that. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is, on the baseball end of this thing, this is all about abuse, right?
Right.
This is beyond just hazing. This is abusive behavior.
Right.
So anyway, we'll keep you guys informed. Obviously, this is all about Texas, but we got to get that bit of NCAA news out there. We will do that from time to time. If there's anything big or breaking, we'll get that stuff out there to you. But if it's not, it's all about Texas all day, all the time, because we're about the 40 acres around here. So
got it.
The next topic of discussion as we get into this, before we get into this next topic, right? Big 12 Media Days. This is basically in the past,
right?
Texas Day, right? Texas Week. Texas is always featured on Big 12 Media Days. It's always on a Wednesday because, Texas is the Big 12, right? Texas and OU are the Big 12.
They're the big dogs.
The Big 12 they've done a lot of funny things with Media Days this year. And one of the funny things they did was made Texas go on Tuesday, on Wednesday, which is day one, right? Usually it's Texas goes on the last day because you really want people to come in early. They're going to stay for day one. And you don't want people to leave. You want people to stay. And so Texas and OU staying is like part of that. But they pushed them to yesterday. Tim, I know you mentioned that you didn't get to read up on much around Big 12 Media Days because I know you were busy. But what did you read up on Big 12 Media Days? Because I have some specific thoughts, but I want you to go first.
And that being the reason, because Texas being moved to Wednesday threw everything off for me. Let me be very honest with you. I was expecting Texas and Oklahoma to go last. There was I knew the Big 12 Media Days had started. However, before I really gave it any real attention, because again, and I'm not, it's nothing against the other teams that are in the Big 12 and the additions to the Big 12, but kind of like we were talking about earlier prior to us going live here, these teams that have joined really don't have much ground or footing. They're just now being invited to the party per se. So I really didn't have anything for them just because I expected them to go first. And so that was my bad. I dropped the ball on that. But what I do like is that I do like the fact that Sark has, again, done his due diligence to address the defense. He's done his due diligence to fill in these holes. Obviously, the big hole this year on offense is going to be who's going to be replacing Bijan, right? Okay. The addition, strengthening that wide receiver core by adding AD Mitchell, making sure that Jordan Whittington is back healthy. He's come back. So that was one of my main things that I really took away from Big 12 Media Days, is that he's addressed these things and prepping to go to the SEC. Most of the time you wouldn't think that a team would prep like this, but based off of what we've seen within the last, week or the last couple of months, we've really seen things be adjusted. We've brought in, coaches. We brought in special assistants as coaches. So to beef up that defense, to get some more experience in there. So I've been really pleased on what has been addressed over the offseason.
Yeah, and again, I think Sark learned from the Gary Patterson thing, and he's kind of experimenting with other things. Bringing in Paul Chris, by the way, genius move.
Great move.
He's literally taking. I mean, he's taking from his mentor, right? He's taking from the Nick Saban tree. Nick Saban brings in special assistants every single year, and then he either uses them for a year and just says, "Hey, I mean, you're not doing anything. Come join me for a year," and takes ideas from them. Or he keeps them on his staff in bigger roles as they're there longer, right?
Right.
The most recent one for Saban that I remember is obviously Bill O'Brien coming in as a special offensive assistant, and then when Sark leaves, he becomes the offensive coordinator, right? Which is still there as the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. So Sark is doing the same thing. He's taking guys who have been either let go or leave big programs. And he's utilizing them to bring knowledge to his program, right?
Right.
With that being said, this is the first time in a very, very long time that I'm not worried about the quarterback position, right? And I'm very happy to say that. This is the first time in maybe 4 or 5 years where we're not going into fall camp talking about a quarterback battle. I'm not getting excited to go to the practice here in about 3 or 4 weeks to be like, oh, what's going on with that quarterback battle? I know who my quarterback is. The only difference between my quarterback this year and who the quarterback was last year is he doesn't have a mullet anymore. So that's the only difference that we've got, right? He's got no mullet. He's been working on his throwing. He's actually, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit because he spoke yesterday. Interestingly enough, he actually talked about how this is the healthiest he's been in 3 years because his junior year, he had a shoulder injury that he carried into his senior year, which of course he didn't play his senior year because he moved up his recruiting year or whatever they call it. I forgot the terminology to go to Ohio State. And of course, last year when he was torching Alabama, they decided to break his clavicle or hurt his clavicle, sprain his clavicle. Sorry. So he says this is the healthiest he's been in a couple of years. This is also the first time as Texas fans we get the same quarterback 2 years in a row in a while, right? Well, not in a while, since Sam Ellinger, right?
Right.
But obviously we know the trajectory and the ceiling of Quinn Ewers is obviously way different. Right. Much higher than Sam Ellinger. No disrespect to Sam because he did what he could.
Right. Sam did what he could with what he had.
Yeah, he did what he could with the coach who didn't know how to develop players. Nothing he could do, right? What?
You taking shots already? It's episode 1.
Bro, what? What do you mean? Tom Herman couldn't develop players. What are you talking about?
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's it's obviously something of a point of interest. Before I go on here, I do want to address this comment. First off, Jimmy Dole, what's up, my guy? How you doing?
Jimmy Dole, what's up, baby? It's been a minute.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being in here. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. And then real quick, Kelvin, what's up, my guy? Glad to see you out still at it. We are at it. We are back, and we actually will be going live every Wednesday, 8:30. So I appreciate you. Yeah. Jimmy Dole says, "I'm pretty confident in the wide receivers too. Talk about that because our wide receivers are underrated in some ways. But hey, they're gonna ball out. Hey, here's the thing about and we talked about quarterback, right? We've obviously got Quinn Ewers. You have Malik Murphy. You have Manning Jr. Arch Manning. And so we probably have the best quarterback room in the nation. I don't care what that guy at Texas Tech says.
Whoa. Okay.
I don't care what that. I mean, who's got a better quarterback room?
Let me tell you something. Malik Murphy looks like a stud. That dude is.
They all look ripped. Did you see that picture that they posted?
That picture that they took? Yeah. That picture that they took 4 weeks ago. They look ripped. They've obviously been in the weight room. So
together.
Right. So even Arch looks really good.
He does.
Yeah.
It segues me into what I was going to say next. which Sark was talking about how he feels like the players are finally taking over
Right.
the locker room, but in a good way, right?
Right.
Taking over the locker room in a good way.
Mhm.
Quinn and Jordan and these guys like Kelvin Banks, these guys Christian Jones, these guys are taking over the locker room and they are guiding the rest of the team.
Yeah,
This is really the first time we've got that. We've got true leadership. Back to the wide receiver comment here real quick. We obviously know about Xavier Worthy, right? X is going to be fine. He doesn't have a broken hand. It's fine, everybody. He's going to be fine. A.D. Mitchell's going to be a touchdown machine. We obviously got Jatavian Sanders, right?
Right.
But we've got a whole slew of other receivers that we don't really talk about.
We got new blood.
You got new blood, but you've also got returning blood that you don't really talk about, right? Isaiah Nayor really didn't get a chance to play last year because of the ACL. He was tearing it up before he got hurt last year, right? I'm really excited personally about Jonte Cook, the freshman. And I know how much playing time Jonte gets, I don't really know. But I do know that he's one of those guys that will take all advantage of the opportunities he's going to get.
Right.
You also got Ryan Neblett, who came in as a freshman. You've got a core of guys. You've got your top 3 or 4, but then you've got some guys at 5, 6, 7, and 8 that have talent, right?
Blue chippers. Yeah.
You got blue chip 5-star. Jonte Cook was a 5-star recruit.
Right.
You've got guys that you can develop, and you've got guys that can come in and perform if something like last year were to happen with injuries in Quinn. All 5 offensive linemen return this year, and I think Sark touched on this a little bit, right?
Right.
Sark is really big about being big up front. He also talked about how there was a quiet confidence in this team this year, right? And that's one thing that is one thing that I noticed is Texas knows where they sit right now with the Big 12, right?
Right.
And it's the highest they've sat in a very long time in the conference.
Very much so. But
they're not taking that, and I usually it's like, oh yeah, Texas is back, right?
Right.
But there's a quiet confidence in this group that I don't think we've had in a while. I would even argue that the confidence that we had in the group, the returning when Ellinger did the whole Texas we're back thing,
right?
This group is way better than that group.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Oh, for sure. I would say there's as talent is concerned.
Yeah.
And on paper, it looks the landscape looks way different. Yeah. Like you said, being able to have an offensive line return where all of your starting offensive linemen come back, being able to add on to an already really good wide receiver core barring injuries, that says a lot. We went through a little scare where we thought Xavier Worthy was going to be gone. We thought he was taken off. Clearly, that's not the case. All he did was switch up numbers. So, so that's
he's 0 now, right?
I think
or is he 1?
He's 1. He went from 8 to 1. Right. So, again, we've got people that we haven't really been able to see on the field. We were there last year when Isaiah Nayor, he unfortunately tore his ACL. Yeah. They also lost another starting center at the time. Those were 2 major pieces that we lost that we didn't have on the field. And, of course, the best availability is being available and being healthy. So now that these guys are back, hopefully, that should give you some confidence to know that everybody's healthy. There's no real injuries looming. You're going into the season, you kind of do develop that chemistry or that pride or that confidence that you're going to be able to come out on top.
Yeah. I quickly want to switch to one more comment from Jimmy here. My boy Casey Kane is getting slept on in the wide receiver group. Casey Kane needs to go ahead and go to his hotel room, book the hotel room, check out.
I like Casey, dog.
I like Casey too. He's not going to get any playing time. Personally, if you look at how deep this wide receiver room is. It's the deepest wide receiver room we've had in a long time. Plus, you got 2 freshmen. People forget about DeAndre Moore.
Right.
and then we talked about Jatavian Sanders. Gunnar Helm is also there.
Right.
Another guy that you could use. I mean, there's just so much. I personally, by the end, I would be shocked because I think there's one more transfer period left between fall camp and the start of the season. I could see Casey Kane transferring.
Well, Brennan Thompson left.
Right.
Brennan Thompson actually for a couple of games had a really nice bright spot where he was able to kind of get his shine on. I hate the fact that he transferred. Yep. I kind of understand it though. That wide receiver room is deep. Obviously, I think we're building towards the future, right? So we're bringing these guys in, or these guys are being brought in not only to contribute now, but eventually to contribute in the future when we do make that transition over to the SEC. And it is very much apparent. If you guys haven't been paying attention, it is overwhelmingly apparent that we are definitely preparing for the SEC and what the SEC brings.
Yeah, absolutely. Two more nuggets here real quick.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers was talked about, and he was so there's a couple of things I noticed about Quinn Ewers. Very humble. He's very quiet spoken, but again, quiet but confident, right?
Right.
One word he used multiple times, I think at least 3 or 4 times, was the word brotherhood. They formed a brotherhood inside the quarterback room. They're forming a brotherhood on the team.
Right.
That's not something you hear. When you hear things like brotherhood and when you hear things like chemistry, right? Those things go hand in hand. And now you take that and now you go out and you just have fun, right?
Right.
When you're having fun, winning just comes with it, right? It's just like a part. There's a difference between having fun to win, but then you're trying to win to have fun, right? And I think that's another reason why I think Texas is being rated where they are. Mm-hmm. And they've obviously got the talent, they've got the coaching. 2 things that concern me about Texas.
What's that?
Linebacking core.
Ooh, okay.
And Sark's ability to adjust in game.
You bring that up, and that is kind of a painful thing. As of last year, we watched all these games. We watched Texas come out blazing in just about every game, but it looked like there was just an inability to adjust in the second half. And it was always it's never in the first half. The first half seems to be working just fine, right? Yeah. And not to say that, again, I'm not a coach, you're not a coach, but it just seemed from, if you have any basic knowledge of football, that there wasn't any adjustments being made. And we didn't really see that until later in the year. And by that time, it was too late.
Yeah.
I would say with the TCU game, you could kind of see the adjustments being made. It just so happened that a ball gets tipped, goes in the wrong direction, and then there's the Big 12 championship gone with that tip ball and a pass for a touchdown. So let's hope, for the sake of having hope, that will be a strength, is being able to get in there, make the proper adjustments, and see where we can go from that point. Because again, if you look at it on paper, if you look at just the first half of the season and the first half of these games, you would think this team is going undefeated. They have gotten out to such a great start in some of these games.
Yeah.
To just kind of wet the bed. The couple times that they did, it was just like unfortunate. One of the games that scared me the most was the UTSA game. They did not. Oh my God.
Oh man.
If it wasn't for Jalen Ford literally taking that game over, I don't know what we would have been saying. That would have been a whole different topic. If we would have lost to UTSA, that place would have been on fire.
Yeah, and thank God we didn't. But if we would have lost to UTSA, I think 8-5 would have like, ooh. That would not have
Right.
that definitely obviously wouldn't have happened. I think Jalen
Right.
Ford, obviously Big 12 preseason Big 12 defensive player of the year after
Right.
getting highly disrespected last year by the Big 12.
Right.
He's the Big 12 preseason player of the year. I think he's good. I think Jalen Ford is unreal. Off ball linebacker, a guy that plays off the ball very well, very instinctive, plays very fast, but is also a
Mhm.
very good tackler. Which, my
Now,
gosh, we
just to
haven't
make
had a
sure,
great tackler in Texas, and I don't know how long.
it's been a while. Now, just to make sure, was Jalen Ford was a former safety that was moved to linebacker? Am I not? Am I correct?
No,
Or what?
Jalen Ford was the guy that they brought in very, very late in the transfer portal last year
Okay.
to
Okay.
fill in a hole.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he came out. He's from Texas.
Right.
He's from Frisco. I can't remember where he transferred. Arkansas? No, he transferred. He transferred out of a junior college
Gotcha.
late
Okay.
last year, and they weren't sure where he was going to fit in. They weren't sure, what was going to happen to him. And dude, this guy is a stud.
Right.
And I think he had like 100 tackles last year.
He had a lot.
Absolute stud. Absolute tackling
He did.
machine.
He played his butt off last year. Definitely one of the bright spots on the defense.
Absolute tackling machine. So yeah, those are like two areas of concern. Sark, obviously opening script, you talked about it. Probably one of the best we've ever. Every game, just unreal. Right. This team comes out blazing every year. So preparation is obviously not a problem, right?
Yeah,
Sark prepares very, very well.
Right.
He prepares his team very, very well.
Right.
In-game adjustments. This is where coaching your position coaches, your coordinators, this is where coaching matters. Having guys that they're bringing in to help with these types of adjustments is really where I think will be really interesting to see this year.
Right.
Real quick before we go on, because this is going to lead us into our next segment. But Cody says, "Welcome to the SEC. Go Dogs." Cody, the last time I checked, this is 2023, not 2024. We'll see you next year.
Right. And the Dogs are also running a very, very dirty program. if you wanna, go Dogs that.
Jimmy asks, a little bit off topic. Let's talk about Deion taking over Colorado. A, good year. B, flat for 1 or 2 years. Or C, take off or flat completely. A, B, or C. So basically, Deion Sanders, as you know, is with Colorado. Deion Sanders, my wife loves Deion Sanders. She probably is their number one YouTube fan. We watch every practice. We watch Colorado walk to practice. We watch them hang up their cleats. We watch them do kind of everything. We're big YouTube Colorado guys. Unfortunately. Right. But taking a look at this question here, and I don't want to sit too much on this. I think A says, 1 good year. B, is it a flop for 1 or 2 years and take off? Or C, is it a flop completely? What are your thoughts on Deion and how that program goes?
So to be fair, I think, and we talked about this, right, a couple of weeks ago in regards to, prior to him having the surgery and things of that nature, we kind of looked over his schedule, and I kind of wanted to see how you felt about the schedule and the scheduling and what would be good for Colorado. What would be a good year for Colorado? And you said 5 wins is good. Now, I thought about it. My initial reaction was kind of shocking, but when I think about it and I go back and I kind of look over that schedule, 5 wins seems very, maybe even 6 wins seems very, very legit. This is, again, they basically revamped that entire team. They have people coming in and out of the portal. They've got to implement their systems. They got to implement, their ways. Like you said, on YouTube, you can see all of that. And you can see that they are really trying to build something strong there. But that doesn't happen overnight, you know. You don't just build these super teams out of nowhere. So I think a 5 or 6 win year, I think that's a good year for Colorado. Now, to Deion, is it? Probably not, but it's a stepping stone from 1-11. They went 1-11.
Yeah.
They were one of the worst teams in college football. They gave up more. If I'm not mistaken, their point spread was really, really crazy. They have one of the worst point spreads in in college football as well. So they weren't doing too well at all. So if you can move past one, maybe even steal a win, right? Maybe you get a win at Utah, or maybe you get a win at USC or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good year.
Sure.
What do you?
Yeah. They won one game last year, right? I
Right.
mean, this is a bad football team. It is still a bad football team. Now, has Dion made some strides and has he brought some people in? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
He also brought his own guys, right? Travis Hunter comes with him. His son comes with him, who's a fantastic quarterback, by the way. I'm
Right.
super, super excited about him. I actually, that's the one guy I really like. Shador Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! That dude's a baller. Love that guy.
Yeah, Shador is great. He's definitely shown that he can lead.
Yeah. There's two things that I learned very quickly about Deion Sanders. He doesn't care who you are.
No.
And I say that because he's benched his own son. He doesn't care who you are, right? And he only cares about winning. So with that being said, I don't see 6 wins as a bad loss. I mean, a bad thing for this team.
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think anything else is like
overachieving, right? They got a really
flash
tough
in the pan.
schedule.
Right.
Really
they got
tough
a
schedule.
right.
Coming out of the gates, you go to TCU.
Right.
Versus Nebraska, who's supposed to be better, which is Nebraska is basically like Texas Junior. They say that about them every year.
Right.
You have to go to Oregon, play SC, go to UCLA,
right.
go to Utah. Like you've got to go to a lot of crazy places, right?
And what Chip Kelly's doing at UCLA is not to be frowned upon. Like he's doing definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, look at what he's doing at UCLA, what he did at Oregon. Now, does he leave this time to go destroy an NFL franchise? I don't know, but
probably not.
I hope not. And if he stays at UCLA is dangerous,
right?
Especially going into the Big 12, right?
Right.
So the Big 10. So yeah, I think 5 or 6 wins is reasonable. Now, to get back to your question there, Trey, Jimmy, I don't know. I'm going to say 6 wins to me is a good year. So I think a good year one. I'm gonna say it's going to be a good year one, and we just kind of see what happens from there.
Right.
Cody thought Texas is going to beat Georgia this year. Cody, that's going to be next year. Okay. We'll show you guys.
It's going to be in a playoff. That's going to be in a playoff. Texas versus Georgia in a playoff. Let's go.
Oh man. We'll show you a good time. We'll bring you to Texas next year, give you guys some good barbecue, and send you home with the butt whooping.
Yeah, some legitimate barbecue because I don't know what y'all doing over there.
How would you rank the Longhorns amongst your SEC competitors? I don't really know, honestly. I think it's too soon to say anything. We'll know our barometer when we play Alabama. I think that'll give us a pretty good assumption of how we're doing.
Kelly got that Hollywood job. Sit back, collect paychecks.
Bro, he sure does. Dang, man. Wow. Sit back, collect paychecks, and beat terrible teams. Hey.
Man. Hey, good. A lot of people are kind of sleeping on the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is not going to be a terrible conference as they were in previous years. Obviously, again, we both know that the Pac-12, they're losing USC, they're losing UCLA next year. But with this year in general, you can't really just say that they're going to be a bottom of the barrel conference.
No,
you can't. People are going to be shockingly surprised. I definitely looked over the first week. The Pac-12 could shock a lot of teams.
The one team that I want everybody to keep an eye out for is Washington.
Right.
Obviously, Michael Penix there, an unreal receiving core. I would argue the second best receiving core in the nation behind Ohio State. Washington's going to be good.
Right.
And of course, you got Utes. You got our boy who transferred from good old Texas, still chilling over there.
Cam Rising still there.
What, third year?
Yeah, this is his third year. This should be his third year, or maybe this should be his senior year. This might be his senior year.
Regardless, not Dalton Reisner. What's his name?
Cam
Reisner.
Right.
Cam Reisner. Dude's actually really good.
Right. It's gonna be a lot of strong quarterback play. You got UCLA, you got USC,
Oregon, Bo Nix.
Oregon, Bo Nix back for his 90th season. You
Hey,
got Washington showing out. I mean,
yeah.
again, we don't know what to really call of Nebraska, but hey, we'll see. We'll see. We're only a couple weeks away. It's only a couple more weeks, and then we'll be able to really get to the nitty gritty.
If Tom Herman wasn't in love with Sam Ellinger, we would still have Cameron Rising.
Do you think Cameron Wright? Ooh, should Cameron Rising should have started over Sam Ellinger?
100%. 100%.
Ooh.
But we're going back to Texas. I don't want to talk about the Trap 12 because this is not the Pac-12 show. But Dalton Reiser definitely should have started over. Sam Ellinger. Sam Ellinger was great, but Sam Ellinger was a gritty guy, and he was also a coach's favorite. He was the local guy. He was the fan guy. He's hook 'em horns since he was like 6 months old in that little picture.
Right.
That's why Sam started. Right.
Right.
And Tom Herman didn't develop him because he doesn't know how to develop players. I'll never let that go. Tom Herman recruited actually really well. He just couldn't. Tom Herman couldn't develop a butterfly, dude. That dude couldn't do anything.
Well, we'll see what he does. He's got a coaching job now, so we'll see what he does.
UCF, right?
No,
not UCF. FIU.
Oh yeah, Florida International. My bad.
Yeah, Florida International.
My bad.
Yeah.
Hey, if I'm Tom Herman, I'm looking at Northwestern though. I'm just saying, I'm looking at Northwestern.
He doesn't hate people. He might fit in.
Oh well, yeah.
But anyway, for the first time in 12 years, we got Big 12 preseason rankings. Again, I'm not big on preseason rankings. I don't really think
it's all hype. It's all hype.
But this is the most hype I've been about rankings I don't care about in a very long time because for the first time since 2011, there's one school that stands on top of the mountain in the preseason, and that school hails from the 40 acres.
Right.
Tim, how are you feeling? First off, what are your thoughts on preseason rankings, and how are you feeling that Texas is the preseason number one in the Big 12? The last year before the Big 12 becomes a mid-major conference.
So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the preseason rankings. We got to give people something to talk about, right? So rankings, that's just what they are. And me and you both have agreed that like rankings really don't matter until about week 4 or 5, right? You kind of get to see exactly what this team is going to be, what happens, injuries, all that good stuff. So really rankings don't matter until week 4 or 5. Yeah. However, I think it's in regards to this last year in the Big 12, I think it's speaking major on a major level that they are finally recognizing like, yeah, these guys are probably going to beat the brakes off of us and then they're going to leave. That's how I look at it. They have Kansas State ranked 2nd and Oklahoma ranked 3rd. How I feel about Kansas State. They've been a thorn and I'm behind since the Big 12 was created, right? They've always been a thorn. They've always played Texas really hard. They do have and have always produced a solid defense. Playing in Kansas, Manhattan has always been a thing. So I do like Texas at 1 or 2. Texas could have been 2, and I would have been fine with it. If they would have had Kansas at 1, Kansas State at 1, and Texas at 2, I would have been fine with it. But it goes to show that they do believe that Texas does have the talent to win the Big 12, where in years they definitely did not believe that because they've always necessarily had Oklahoma State, at the top, to win the Big 12. And for the most part, I mean, to be completely honest, they've been pretty much right. So for them to have big Texas at number 1, I'm okay with it. My thing is anything can happen at any point in time. Again, we talk about those major injuries that we had last year. I think that was very possible for us to win it last year. But again, those injuries played a major point in the winning of the Big 12. So I'm cool with it. What do you think? What are your opinions on it?
Sark's built the best roster in the conference.
I mean, that's what it really boils down to, right? Like,
right? I mean, you take a look at this. There's a lot of firsts in a very long time for this Texas roster. We talked about it earlier, right?
Right.
First time you have a returning quarterback. First time this is the first time in a very long time the entire offensive line comes back.
Right.
You've got a really good secondary, a really, 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 which we didn't get a chance to touch on, really talented secondary.
Right.
Right.
With the potential of adding on to it.
With the potential of adding on. You've got some guys on the defensive line that have been in the system now for 2 or 3 years. You have leaders. Your quarterback is returning, like we said. You have wide receivers that are not just wide receivers; they're playmakers.
Right.
You've got a variety of so the roster. This is by far, and it's in my opinion, it's not even close. The best roster in the conference. Right. There's not a roster in this conference that is better.
Right.
Texas inability to me, if Texas doesn't win the Big 12, Sark's on the hot seat heading into the SEC. Very
much so. I believe that. I agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they have to, go undefeated because, it's still kind of building, but you got to win the conference. You have to. Yeah, you have to be there. You were in Arlington this week to start the year. You better be in Arlington raising that trophy to end the year because if you're not, hot seat. No excuses for me for Sark this year.
Right.
But the rest of this list, and I'm not going to go through the entire list because the bottom of the barrel is the bottom of the barrel. West Virginia is the worst team in the conference. We all know they suck.
Right.
But 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 are really interesting. So second is Kansas State, third Oklahoma, fourth is Texas Tech, and fifth is TCU. TCU after winning the conference again. Every year there's a surprise team. Last year that was TCU. I don't think TCU is going to be that good again. I don't think they're probably a 6-win team this year.
Oh wow!
Kudos to Sonny Dykes. He took Gary Patterson's roster and he made it all the way to the college football playoff, which is the one thing Gary Patterson couldn't do, which is why they got rid of him.
Right.
Sonny Dyke doesn't have.
Gary Patterson is a legendary coach.
Yeah, a legend at TCU.
Right.
He got booted just like that because he couldn't make the playoff.
Right.
Sonny Dykes doesn't have Max Duggan anymore. Sonny Dykes doesn't have Zach Evans. He doesn't have the wide receiver. He doesn't have the defense. This is now his team. What is he going to do? We'll see. Texas Tech. Texas Tech is interesting to me.
Why? Because of the quarterback and the wide receiver that they were able to pick up?
Well, they don't have a quarterback. That's what's so interesting. So here's the thing. Who's that guy? Shug?
I can't pronounce it. I don't even pretend. I cannot pronounce it. I don't.
That dude is not good. I'm sorry. He's not good. Right? Just stop. They don't have a defense. I mean, could they surprise? Sure. Again, there's always that team. Oklahoma is third. Oofda. They won 6 games last year or 5 games last year.
I think 5. I think Oklahoma. How did
they get better? Did they get better, or did they just get older?
I mean, well, their quarterback's returning.
Dylan Gabriel comes back, right?
Right. He's going to be healthy. He absolutely got obliterated in that Texas game. Basically dropped on his head and carted out of there. No,
he didn't play in the Texas game. He got hurt before.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a game prior. He got dropped on his head
against Kansas State.
Right. He got beat up pretty bad. So for me, I don't necessarily know. I mean, again, they got Brennan Thompson, so we know that Brennan Thompson is capable of opening a game up. So other than that, they added to the defensive line. But Brent Venables was brought there to be a defensive coach. He's a defensive coach. I wanted Brent Venables in that search for the new coach. When we were looking at getting rid of Tom Herman, and then that was one of my deals. I was like, I want Brent Venables. I'm kind of glad we didn't go Brent Venables now. He's a
You don't say.
he's a bit aloof, if that's the proper term.
Okay.
He just doesn't. I don't know what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's going to transition over to to the field.
Hot
That's
take.
the thing with me. If you don't know what the coach is doing and you don't have an idea what the coach is doing, how is that supposed to transition over to the field?
I got a hot take. Brent Venables gets fired this year.
Whoa.
I don't think Oklahoma gets any better. And
Are you serious? 2 years?
2
Brent
years.
Venables is gone?
I think they only win 5 games or 6 games again. I don't think he's building a program. Again, you talked about he's just aloof. You're going into the big bad ACC. They're losing recruits to Texas. They're losing recruits. Dude, they lost a recruit to a nobody like a couple days ago. A 5-star recruit.
Right. Also we did take the defensive end that was I forget his name.
Ethan Burke was it Ethan Burke from the Westlake guy?
Right, yeah.
Ethan
Burke, he was gonna go to Oklahoma. That was a big deal. And then Texas came in and swooped him. And I remember his exact words was like, Texas is home, like I want to be at home. And so that was very telling. It seems like they were getting the recruits, but it didn't seem like they were actively pursuing these guys for long periods of time. It's like maybe you get them and then you leave them alone, or you don't continue to check in with them. I don't necessarily know. I don't live in a recruiting area. I'm not a recruiter, so that's just what it seems from the outside looking in.
Recruiting is all about relationships.
Right.
Brent Venables, again, I don't know the guy. I don't want to talk bad on him, but perception is he's not an approachable guy.
Right.
Steve Sarkisian, he seems like an approachable guy, just the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he presents himself, the way, he's out there on social media, the way just Brent Venables, I've never heard from the guy. I hear from the guy every time they lose every week because that's all he's been doing so far at Oklahoma. Right. And even in his interviews, it's like, oh yeah, I guess we'll try harder next week. I think he gets fired after this year. I don't think Oklahoma gets any better. Personally,
man, that would be tough. You want to talk about transfers? If they start to lose like they do, like they did last year, oh man, that's gonna be a rough start for them.
Yeah, and they're transitioning into the SEC. But I do think they go back to getting an offensive guy as their next head coach.
Any takers?
Because let me think about that. Nobody I can think about it at the top of my head.
I got one guy. Mr. Dirty Man himself.
Lane Kiffin?
not Lane Kiffin.
You talking about Pat Fitzgerald?
Not Pat Fitzgerald. What's my man?
O'Brien?
Not Bill O'Brien. Jesus Christ, I just lost his name just like that. Baylor's former head coach.
Oh, Matt Rule.
Not Matt Rule.
No. Art Briles.
Wow. I can see it.
Really?
I can see it. Art Briles. Bro.
That's deep. You went deep.
If this Sarkisian stuff don't work out,
Art Briles. If it don't work out, you know who I'm calling?
Who?
I'm calling Mr. College Football, Mr. Program Builder.
Are you going with who I think you're going with?
Who you think I'm going with, Tim Wayne? I'm calling Mr. Program Builder.
Are you going with Jacksonville's former head coach?
Mr. Program Builder himself. I'm calling Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer?
I'm calling Urban. I'm saying, hey,
I called for Urban a couple years ago. You was like, no way. Bro, Urban Meyer, listen, he might be a dirty man, and he might be sticking his hands down women's pants, and keep your hands to yourself, guys. But that guy can build a football program.
That's what I'm saying, Mr. Program Builder himself. Listen,
Art Briles, Urban Meyer, I'm giving him a call. I don't care what kind of scrutiny I'm getting.
What he did in Jacksonville has nothing to do with me.
Right.
That dude builds programs in college football. He's done it multiple places.
Well, let's just hope and
Big
pray
schools.
that Oklahoma's dumb enough to keep Brent Venables around. How about that?
Hey, I'd like to beat up, 2 schools and get 2 free wins every year in the SEC moving forward. I'll take it. I mean, we're already going to get one. We're going to beat Texas A&M every year.
Man.
Because they're not going to get rid of Jimbo Fisher.
Man, their message boards are on fire right now. Jesus Christ.
Well, speaking of stealing and speaking of dirty programs and stealing and everything, we got one last thing we can talk about. We're going to keep this brief because we have been going for an hour now, and I know there's a lot to talk about. Well, let's do a quick recruiting update. Let me set the stage for recruiting because to you and me, our phones are blowing up, right?
Right.
But
it seems like every other day.
But to the average Joe, it's like, why are you following a bunch of high schoolers? Listen, guys, we live in Texas, right?
Right.
I know you Georgia fans, you Florida fans, you Oklahoma fans, because there's nothing else to do in Oklahoma, which is I get you guys don't follow recruiting. But Texas, we supply all your programs. This state right here supplies all of your programs, right? So recruiting is a year-long thing. This is the reason why there's now 2 commitment dates, right? Because it is a year-long thing now. So Texas had a big official visit weekend. I think it was a couple weeks ago for the class of 2024 guys. And then I think 2 weeks before that, they had the junior class in. So the class of 2025 guys and Tim, they committing, bro. They are buying into Sark.
They are coming in. They are coming in droves.
Sark talked about this Big 12 Media Days. He talks about, look, we don't need to sell. We don't need to pay people money, right? We're selling the program. We're selling Austin. We're selling going to the SEC. There's all these things that Texas has going well. The only thing they can't sell yet is winning football games, which is the only thing that's keeping Steve Sarkisian from being one of the best coaches in college football. Once Steve Sarkisian wins, to me, he's an elite recruiter already. He's good at making game plans. The moment Texas starts winning 10 games a year, Steve Sarkisian is going to be noticed as one of the best coaches in this nation, and I can't wait. So, but let's talk about recruiting real quick. So the last couple of weeks, we're getting big time guys, right? Freddie DeBose, 4-star out of, and these guys are Texas guys out of Spring Branch, which is in the Houston area. Athlete, I believe, wide receiver. The one that I was there's 2 that really interested me. Aaron Hampton out of Dangerfield, Texas, and Jordan Johnson Rudell out of Florida. Okay. This is a 4-star safety. And Sark is really attacking the defensive side of the ball this recruiting cycle. Obviously, if you look at what's still pending, you've got, they've committed earlier this year. They committed Alex January. I think Alex might have committed last year. Or no, he committed early in the cycle. He committed July 1st. Nate Kibble committed earlier. But look at what's pending. So if you look at what's pending, right, and we look at prospects, obviously big fishes, we all know who the big fish is. The guy from Duncanville, Colin Simmons. Right. Colin Simmons is the guy. That's who everybody wants. That's who Alabama. That's who Texas A&M for whatever reason. That's who Oklahoma, Georgia, all these big dogs. That's who everybody wants is Colin Simmons. Colin Simmons, I'll tell you right now, would be the best edge rusher we've had at Texas in over 10 years if he commits. Yeah. We need a guy that'll make a difference on the defensive line, a guy that can just go, right? He's a high motor guy. That's Colin Simmons.
Yeah. Again, addressing the defense has been one of the key things that Sark has, made a purpose to go towards these guys. We also got, even yesterday, we got a 3-star commit, even a low 4 in some other programs as far as ESPN rankings and 24/7, 247 rankings. Melvin Hills III commits, beefing up that interior lineman. I know for a long time you had a beef with the defensive interior lineman with Texas for such a long time. So clearly, they know this is a thing that needs to be addressed, right? But again, there's so many other pieces and dominoes that are able to fall or that are going to fall here within the next couple of months. Hopefully, we hear something early. We want to get them in early. We want to get them locked in early. But again, recruiting takes a year. That's a year-long thing. Again, it's all about developing relationships. One of the things that Melvin Hills made a comment about is that he felt like, if I'm not mistaken, Bo Davis, he refers to him as Coach Bo, but he said Coach Bo and Steve Sarkisian, he feels that they can develop him into an NFL talent. And so it was a no-brainer. He's from Texas, right? And he felt like this was the best place to get developed and get to get that proper training to ascend to the next level. Right. So again, it's not hard to sell Austin. No. It's really not. It's not hard to sell the University of Texas. It's not hard to sell the facilities. All of this stuff has been upgraded, and it stays in that. I guess that they continue to move in a state-of-the-art type of mode. So you can see, you can just kind of see where we're trending. Like now, I don't think that's going to take away from the offense at all. Most people, you see this kind of swing, like this pendulum swing. You can see where the offense will kind of taper off, but the defense will get, you'll see a difference in the defense versus the offense. This is not the case. This is clearly not the case. Got the number one running back this year, got the number one running back on 2 visits this month alone. It's the 13th. He's got 2 visits coming up here in the future. So it's again, that hope, right? We always hope is that's a hell of a drug, man. Like it's so big, but again, I just like what we're doing. I like what I've seen. I can't say that in the past. I did like the fact that we did have Tom Herman there. I will admit he did recruit very, very well. But to see these guys being open and honest and saying, hey, like, I like what they're presenting here. I like what's being built here, and I want to be a part of it. Says a lot of big things for me in the recruiting aspect.
The one thing Bo Davis is missing is that guy, right? He's recruited a lot of really good guys.
Right.
He is missing that guy. Colin Simmons is that guy, which I think he's supposed to announce in the next. Is it the 21st? I can't remember. I thought it was in July when he was.
I know it's a July announcement. I just don't know what day.
So for some reason, the 2 days that stick out to me are the 17th and the 21st.
Okay.
Regardless, we'll be here to talk about it. We'll be here to talk about everything that unfolds. Fall practice, fall camp starts August 2nd. We'll obviously be here to talk about that. Hopefully we get a couple of days to go check it out ourselves. But hey, that's episode 1, guys. We had a lot to talk about.
Lots to cover.
Lots of cool stuff that was happening. We're back. The duo is back. We're excited to be back. Please, as we mentioned earlier, follow us on Twitter, Longhorn Fan Battle. I am working on getting us a Facebook page, a TikTok, and an Instagram put up. Also visit us on the website, fanbattlesports.com. And also visit all of our other podcast shows. Before we get out of here, Tim, my guy, anything else you got for us?
No, just guys, again, I can't say enough. Again, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work with Fan Battle Sport. For all your Longhorn news, please stay tuned in to us. We'll be updating and actually putting out some actual articles here in the future. So again, make sure you guys stick around. Feel free to reach out to us. Talk trash if you're a Georgia fan. Hit us up. Let us know how you feel about Georgia and what you think they're going to do. I'll definitely respond. I know Uncle Ghani's definitely going to respond. He's the king of Twitter right now. My man is out here slinging slugs every day, talking cash money about the Longhorns and talking trash about everybody else. So you make sure you hit us up. We're friendly. We're not the bougie type to not respond. Definitely hit us up. Let us know how you feel. Let us know how you feel about the show. Remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out a lot.
Yep. And we will be live every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Right.
But between now and then, my name is Uncle Gandhi.
I'm Tim Wayne.
Peace.
Till Gabriel.
Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home.